Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to take a cheeky look at the Chaos Space Marines range for a range review. Before we get into it, I just wanted to say that I hadn't actually planned on doing this yet. I was going to ease off on these a little bit and introduce some other stuff as well, like new, old, and bringing back Community Spotlight. Unfortunately, my editing software that I use, Premiere Pro, has taken this opportunity this week to, well, not even this week, it's been going on for ages, but it's been especially bad this week, to absolutely cack itself through the floor, meaning that any video, essentially more complex than a start to finish in one take situation, is borderline impossible to make. It just crashes constantly, it drops audio constantly, and it completely fails to export anything that has more than 2 or 3 cuts or sources in it, which is making it damn near impossible to do anything that I would like to do. To the extent that this weekend is going to be spent essentially testing out other editing software, because what am I even paying for if it won't work? Anyway, hopefully that'll be sorted over the weekend and I can get back to what I've been trying to do for a little while, bring back Community Spotlight, start new old, and do some other stuff as well. But right now, it's really flipping difficult. So, we're going to have a look at the Chaos Space Marines. For now, we're going to start off with this lad, the Dark Apostle, newish, it's still new I'd say, the new Dark Apostle. There's many things I really like about this, but actually, a couple of them aren't even the Dark Apostle himself. They are in fact his helpers. The guy with the massive weird speaker grill for a face, who is also carrying the lectern for the Flaming Book of Delight, the Argos catalogue. So many beautiful things. Why are you crying? Oh, because I cannot possess them all. Just turned into Bill Bailey references there. I love the dude with the lectern, with the speaker for a face. It's absolutely the grimmest stuff. It's horrible. It's some proper, like, really disgusting body horror going on there. And the guy holding the Chaos icon with the flaming skull in the centre has got off super lightly with his single bionic eye. I bet he's loving the fact he doesn't have a speaker for a face. Dark Apostle himself, I do like quite a lot. There's just a couple of things that I would have liked a bit more. The robe to come all the way down his front would have been nice. He's kind of got that kind of clergy shirt thing going on the front. I would have liked to come it all the way down the front, make it more robe-like, I guess. I do quite like the horns on the head, even if it is a bit on the nose. The big kind of grill collar thing behind him is really cool. The book itself, I do quite like. It being on fire and dripping weird lava, I've never been that sure about, really. I thought I liked it, then I decided I really didn't, and then I went back to thinking, well, no, it's okay, it's pretty good. I'm still bouncing a little bit. His backpack, his power pack is absolutely quality. Love that. All the candles, the flaming like braziers, the skull like Voxcaster ornamentation things going on. Love all of that. Overall, I think it's a really solid model. But I do think you could make him even more deranged and even more mad preachery with a little bit of green stuff here and there, maybe like extending the robe down. Perhaps do something with something that'd be fun. Be take a loyalist Crozius and like deface it. That would look kind of awesome, rather than the pimp cane that he's currently holding. It's overall pretty good. There's just a couple of little tweaks that I would personally make, but overall I do like it. I do like it a lot. God, that speaker grill face is terrible. Khan the Betrayer, on the other hand, nothing I would change about Khan the Betrayer. I really love this model. I think they did a great job with redesigning him. If you could get on and do the rest of the Berserkers as well, that'd be nice. But it's a good model. It's a good model. There's a nice sense of motion. I like the fact that he is running, but you haven't got like that legs apart stance. It kind of, I don't know, it has a nice kind of almost unique feel to it. It just looks so absolutely dead, like dead set on hunting you down in the best possible way. And I mean, the helmet is just, yeah, I love what they do with those like cornate helms. But yeah, it's a solid model all round. Good number of skulls. Maybe a bit excessive on the chains around the arm there. I don't know that I would necessarily leave all of those on personally, but all the ones around his legs, I would totally leave. In fact, I don't even know if I'm that bothered about the chains. I think probably it's just the bits dangling off the end, because it looks like he might crack himself in the head with them. But then again, he's Khan the Betrayer. Does he really give any sort of, like, does he care at all about that? Probably not. It's a solid model, though. It looks dead good. Speaking of which, the Noise Marine, absolute classic quality model. There is nothing to complain about with this at all. In fact, if you don't like this, I don't even know what's wrong with you. I mean, what? How can... Look at all the 80s glory that's going on with this guy. The fact they even painted the base green is... Oh, it's just perfect. Just finishes it off so nicely. I will say, I did see quite a number of people when this first came out kind of going, I don't know that I want Noise Marines to look like that all the time. Like, I'm not sure if I want my Noise Marines in my Emperor's Children army to all have guitar bolters. And I have to admit, I am with you on that one. For a one-off model, I think this is really cool. It's really good. I don't know that I would want a whole squad of them, because I like the look of, like, the sonic cannons. And, yeah, I like the I keep forgetting the name of it. The Blastmaster, whatever it's called. Those look... They just look more capable of doing anything than a guitar with an underslung bolter, which is hilarious and great, and I do like it. But yeah, it's a cool nod. But I think the kind of Forge World style of sonic weaponry is a bit more appropriate for 40k as it is now than perhaps the guitar with the underslung bolter. I still love it though. I mean, I've got 2, so. No, 10k, I've got 3. Yeah, I've got 3, so I'm like well on the way to having a squad anyway. One of them was a gift that someone else painted, but I have got 2 that I'm painting myself. So I say that, I'm already like over halfway to a squad, so maybe I'm just full of nonsense, who knows? Well, we all know that's true. Harken World Claimer. I really like this model, even though there are some issues with it. As a kind of in progress, as like a moving pose, I think it works really well. Like, this model looks good because it's in motion. I would have liked to have a different way of him being suspended in the air, as opposed to the big pipe that's sticking out of that Primaris' chest, although it is a nice touch. Like, from a head-on position, this is a properly imposing model because it has the skulls, it has the spikes, the claw is outstretched, the spear is raised. I think it's a really cool pose. The only issue with it is, anytime he's standing up, it looks like he would properly fall over backwards. Now, to be honest, that's not... I don't really care about that, to be fair. It's none of this stuff makes any, like, real-world sense, but he would have a weird silhouette standing, which makes things like reposing probably a little bit tricky. Because clearly the spikes on the jump pack have been done in such a way that they look that little bit more streamlined, I guess. Which just means that in a static pose it would look weird. Then again, he's not in a static pose. He's in a very non-static pose. And it works really well. The big, like, toothed grill on the front of the collar, I absolutely love that. His as I say, his outstretched arm with the claws looks really, really cool. Like, the lightning claws look great. The spear is surprisingly plain for what it is. But in a way, I think that kind of works. It's a nice contrast to the rest of him. Yeah, I do like him. There's, as I say, there's some nice details going on with this model. Like, something that I meant to point out, actually. The thick pipe work, actually, on the jump pack. I really like that. I really like it. It makes it look like supercharged or more powerful than normal. It's really cool. Cypher, I'll admit, I mostly threw in for the for the hell of it. I mean, at some point we'll cover Dark Angels, and I'm 99% sure he shows up in that range as well, but I thought it'd be fun to just throw him in here. In fairness, also a very good model. Very good model. His power pack is one I really like because of, like, the heavy amount of modification that's gone into it, including, I only realised the other day that actually the power pack has been it's been modified specifically to carry the sword, which is a really nice touch. Because there's like exhaust coming off the other side of the scabbard for the Lion Sword, which is a cool touch. You've got the kind of extra vents on it, the extra exhaust, the little pressure gauge. I really like that aspect of this model. It's a nice touch. The cloak, I think, is really well done. It looks nice and, what's the word? Voluminous? Something like that. You get what I mean. And, the kind of gunslinger pose is quality. Still good. Now, the Warpsmith. I do like the Warpsmith. I would say that perhaps he's looking a little bit ropey now. Maybe showing his age a bit. A very, very complex, like, overcomplicated model. There's a huge amount of cabling and wiring, which I personally really like. You know my penchant for cabling on this channel, but this has always struck me as one of those models that looks awesome as you look at it on the site, but to actually paint would be a nightmare. I've never had cause to grab one of these. I do want one. At some point I would really like to grab one. But it looks like a real challenge because it would be so easy to just spray him lead belcher and then just null the back of him and just go, there you go, you're done. But it would look very bland that way. You need that contrast, and like those additional colours and things like the hazard stripes do a lot to separate what would otherwise just be a mess of weird like ribbed cables. This feels like something that would take a lot of time and a lot of patience to really do justice to. But it is a cool model. It is definitely a cool model. Axe head's a little bit wonky, but then I believe he's resin, if I remember correctly. Just have a quick check. Yes, it is resin. Oh god, 18 components as well. Good Christ. Oh, what? Oh, 18. Why? It's awful to put together. Ugh. Maybe I'm going back on the idea of grabbing one. No, I would still like to grab one. The Demon Prince. We did a whole video about the Demon Prince, which actually I will put a link to in the description, provided I can find it. I know we've already talked about this guy at length. The adaptable nature of this kit, I've had a couple of these. The fact that you can have various different weapons, you can, it works for fantasy or 40k. You've got the option of having, like the actual power armor and the power pack on the back. That is all good. Customizability is good. Being able to switch between different options is definitely good. I'm not going to complain about any of that. But it does not have the same presence and the same menace as the older one, which, as I say, I'll put a link in the description for the video where we compared this Demon Prince to the older one at length. I think it might have been about like a 10-minute video or something, but there is a whole discussion to be had there separate to this. The customizability of this is good, but it will never be able to replace the old one for me personally. I just prefer the old one so much more. So if you go and watch that video, you will be able to find out why. Moving on to Abaddon. There's room for both in terms of pronunciation. At this point, when it comes to names, I'm just going to go with whatever, and it's fine. I'm sure someone out there is just as wrong as me. Well, we've talked about Abaddon before a lot because it is a solid quality rework of the character. The fact that there are like options for heads on this model, you can have the cape on or off, and both ways look great. The fact that he's now got the chunk, the beef, the girth that the man deserves, all top notch. Talon of Horus looks awesome. Drachnyan looks great. Yeah, I don't think there is anything. Looking at him, there's just nothing to really complain about at all. It's up there as one of the best models that Games Workshop's ever made. Genuinely. And it's adaptable as well. I've seen people turn this guy into crazy versions of Demon Princes, of Chaos Lords. I've seen amazing Iron Warrior adaptations and like World Eater ones. I've seen someone turn him into Huron Blackheart. it's such an adaptable kit because it's still recognisably Terminator armour. Admittedly, he is obviously a lot beefier, a lot bigger. Because it's still recognisably Terminator armour, it can be turned to other things surprisingly easy. And that head looks great. I really like the partially helmeted version. But yeah, that is an easy 10 out of 10 model, no question at all. Now the Lord Discordant, I really like this model a lot. I like it a lot. I think it looks really cool. There is one issue with it though. There is one problem, and actually I think the best way to see it would be to let's go to this. Now this, I don't know whether you'll watch this, Maka, of the Outer Circle. I used to like this model a lot more until you pointed out the way that the gun was mounted on the beastie that he rides. As soon as it was pointed out that it's like mounted on an off-center thing that looks like an afterthought, like someone went, "Oh, we should stick a gun on the front, like a, what did you call it, a technical, like a pickup that's had a machine gun bolted to the back of it or something." Now, every time I see it, my brain goes, "That's off-center and nothing else is." And it drives me up the wall. Also, it is hammering down an absolute hailstorm. I apologise if the audio suddenly goes a bit noisy here. I'll try and reduce it when I attempt to edit this. But yeah, ever since Maka pointed that out, I was like, oh my god, that's so irritating. It's the one thing I don't like. I like everything else. The multiple faces that you can have, they look really cool. The little like pointy weapony bits underneath. The actual guy riding it is creepy and terrifying. The big old chain glaive looks awesome. Very Nostraman, which is cool. The trophies, the fact that you've got that kind of trophy rack on his backpack, but it's not got the traditional Chaos kind of iron railings, but instead is snapped off metal spikes. That is a really cool detail, and I'd like to see that on more stuff. I would like to see that on more. I think that looks really good. But yeah, it's another model where there's a lot of detail, but I don't think this one's overdone. I think this is one where they've got it right. There's detail in all the right places, but it's not totally crazy. It's not impossible to look at. You don't get confused as to what's going on. It is a guy riding a armoured monstrosity with an off-center gun attached to it. Now, by contrast, Lucius the Eternal, my boy, my only still around because Slanesh likes you, even though you apparently have got beaten up in fights enough that your armour is covered in the faces of people who beat the shit out of you. You, my boy, are not aging well. You are definitely not aging well. That is a face that not even a mother could love. Badly needs a rework. Just so badly needs a rework. I do have this lying around somewhere. I forget how many pieces he came in, but mine was like a really, really rough cast of it. Like super, super rough. Half the detail was just bubbly and horrendous. It was not a good time trying to clean that up. He just does not aged well. There are things I like about the model. There are nice little details, like the straps over the upper legs. I like that. That's a cool little detail. The way the shin armor is kind of broken up at the top. There's lots of things to like, but it's all just old now. You know, things have improved so much. Things have gotten so much better. I mean, look at that compared to that. It's not just the paint job that's making this look old. It is just an ancient mini at this point, and he really needs an update to be to be at his full smug glory. Similar case for the Night Lord's hero, as it's called. Again, just aging a bit rough. The paint job isn't helping all that much. The lightning's really good, but things like just a completely silver bolter look really off for some reason in this case. The wings are nearly as tall again as that's an exaggeration, but they're pretty damn massive. They're really big. It makes the head look far too large for the rest of the model. It's just something that needs an update. just badly needs an update. There's like a certain charm to it. There's like a lot of these models that are really getting on a bit. There's like a nostalgia charm. You look at them, you're like, that doesn't look great anymore, but I still like it because it reminds me of times gone by almost. But then again, some of them just they just need to be replaced. Putting it nicely. This, I think, is one of those. This, however, just makes me sad every time I see it. Because this is like... it's from Dark Vengeance. You know, aspiring champion from Dark Vengeance. Available standalone. You can't get the other Dark Vengeance stuff standalone. You can get some of the Cultist stuff, but like the Dark Vengeance Marines remain some of the best Marines that, like Chaos Marines, that Games Workshop have ever made. And the fact they never went into full like buy them separately in a box is still upsetting and a travesty. That is a awesome looking Chaos Space Marine. It looks grand. I really like it. I like the fact that the new Chaos Space Marines are a kind of a mix between the tactical Marines, the old style Chaos Space Marines that were just tacticals with spikes and patterny bits, and these. I think that's worked really well in their favour, but what I wouldn't do to be able to just buy the Dark Vengeance Marines separately in their own box. Because they just look solid. They look really good. Almost no customizability at all, but I don't know. Having one as a squad, it would be nice. Oh, speaking of Huron Blackheart, this is why you kind of need to do a bit of kit bashing with Abaddon, because he's in a similar boat to Lucius. He's really not aging all that well. The big like Chaos Star behind him is a really cool feature. I do like that a lot, but everything else, he's just looking a bit aged, a bit dated, a bit mushy around the face area. He needs some TLC. He definitely needs some TLC. Oh, God, Lord. Why you would buy this when Huron Blackheart is available? Not Huron Blackheart. When Harken is available, I don't like. Why would you? Let me see if I got the right one. Yeah, there we go. Like that or that. You just wouldn't, would you? You just wouldn't. Oh, you poor aged lad. The nice touch with this model is the fact that he's got the big metal claws on the feet. That's a cool touch. I do like that. But the pose is so static and weird. Even for the time, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me, this one. He's got a bunch of chains wrapped around a Chaos icon that's dragging on the floor, which can't help with anything at all. The trophy rack that goes over the jump pack is in such a weird position. It's kind of difficult to tell whether it's leaning back, whether it's leaning forwards, whether it goes straight up, in which case, again, the silhouette is just odd on this model. It's really strange. I don't know that this ever looked good. I'll be honest. I know there's going to be a few of you who are like, oh, I really like that. I don't know that this ever looked great. Gotta say it. Yeesh. On the other hand, the Chaos Lord and the Terminator Sorcerer, this is a solid kit. I don't know how many of these I've bought. There's so many options. There's so many options. It still looks good. It still looks decent. To me, this is a really good HQ kit. There's a nice number of like customization options on here. The fact that you can use it to make a sorcerer as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a Chaos Terminator with all the trimmings that you need to make it look as horrendous as you want it to. It just looks great. It just still looks great. I mean, yeah, if you look at that, you've got the chain fist, you've got I'm sure you've got a lightning claw as well. Yeah, you've got 2 lightning claws, you've got power fist, multiple different trophy racks, the options for the sorcerer as well. It's a really good kit. It's a really good kit. And yes, he is standing on a rock, but let's face it, he was doing that before it was cool. He was definitely doing that before he was cool. He was ahead of his time. The fact you got a couple of different heads as well, yeah, cracking kit. Really good. Now, the Master of Executions suffers from the same issue as a lot of the newer stuff, in that there are certain areas of this that I just feel are a bit too busy. I really like all the bones across the shoulder, and I really like the bones hanging down the chest. The bones on the shin, for some reason, always just stand out to me as being a bit not needed. I feel like you get what this guy's about before you get to his shin, and then it's like, okay, all right, maybe piling it on a little bit thick. I can't even tell you why that particular bit bugs me. I think actually it's because it's a similar motif to the shoulder. So the shoulder's got the bones and the ribs, and then the shin just looks like a smaller, weedier version of that, which I think I would have preferred if they were going to do it, like maybe have bone shards jutting out of it or something, just something to differentiate a little bit. The broken bones on the front are different from the ones on the shoulder. The ones on the shoulder are different from the ones around his neck. The ones on the shin just are kind of like the ones on the shoulder, but not. And I don't know, it just feels like more variation would have been nice. That being said, the massive axe is quality. The fact you get a hooded head, like a proper executioner's hood, is cool. The coat being stitched together in multiple places, that bit of chainmail you can see dangling down, I really like all those elements of this model. And I will say, even the bare head has grown on me. His skull being exposed and him only having one eye is hardcore. It's a whole look. It's a real thing, and I do appreciate that. The classic hood, though, I mean, there has to be something said for the Executioner's hood. I think it finishes the look off quite nicely. The new Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer, I really like this model, particularly for the fact that they kept the power pack, the backpack. I like the fact that they kept that motif, like the kind of dragon head look of it. I think it's a nice recreation. I think it's a faithful recreation, but it's just been brought up to scratch. There are some nice details on there. There's some really good work with like the scrolls coming off the belt, the book hanging at the back. The fact that he's holding what looks like kind of flame in a symbol instead of just being like a little like campfire in his hand. I do like that touch as well. I really do like this one. I think it's a really solid model. And the head is creepy as anything. I mean, it's got like a clawed hand over the top of it for a hood. It's just, what the hell? It's creepy in the best way. Yeah, it's pretty solid. It is pretty solid, that. I've not actually looked at the sprue for this guy before. Oh, that's kind of fun. So the backpack is a completely separate piece by the look of it. Oh, interesting. Okay. I like that. You could probably, if you wanted to do some little backpack swap, you could do a few things with that. The head is also really, actually completely separate. That's strangely adaptable. You could swap out one of the arms easy. Yeah, I like that. Nice. Okay. Now, the Chaos Lord from Blackstone Fortress, I really like this model. The only thing that bugs me, about this is the backpack. All the added weird cables, I don't know if I like that or not. I can't even say why I feel like I maybe am leaning towards not liking it. I think it's because there's not a huge amount of... It looks organic. It might just be the way that it's painted, but it looks organic in a setting where there's no other like organic stuff going on. I don't know. It just looks a bit out of place. It sort of looks a bit strange. And not in like a kind of terrifying or... oh, that's interesting way. It just looks... I'll be honest, it looks like what I sometimes do if I totally mangle up a part that I need and it's going to look a little bit gross anyway. It looks like the green stuff solution. I've butchered that gap. We'll cover it in cables, that's fine. probably a bit of my just personal bias floating in there because of having done things like that before. Although then again, that motif is repeated all over the model. It could well be that there is an actual genuine reason for all of this. Like if it's explained in the Blackstone Fortress game, then by all means, like that may well make sense if you play that through. But I've not played it through, so it just looks a bit odd to me. It's an interesting detail and it is different. It's just very specific, I think is the thing. It's it's a very specific thing to have on the model, which I think, needs that added explanation, if indeed there is added explanation. There might not be. If you've played Blackstone Fortress and there is, then by all means, let me know in the comments. Now, we're moving on to some groups of dudes now. The Cultists, I still like these guys. I still think they look good. It's still, they're cool. I will say that, from what I can, as far as I'm aware, all of the stuff from Dark Vengeance, I don't know whether you could get the full box of Cultists before or not. I cannot remember. At the moment, this one seemed to be the only one available on the store, so I can't remember whether you could get the a full box of 10 or not. But I still think they look decent, but to be totally honest with you, with the number of kits that you can get for Necromunda now, you can make Cultists for literally any Chaos God you want, and they will look more appropriate to that Chaos God than these guys do. The amount of customization that's possible now, I mean, just House Cawdor by themselves can cover like 4 or 5 of the other legions. There's other models that you could easily use for things like Iron Warriors. We should do a video for that, actually. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do a video kind of covering just vague ideas for what you can do for different... We'll say for the Chaos Legions, like what you could do for Cultists for those. But they look okay, but you can so easily make your own and make them properly yours that I don't know if I'd ever bother with these. Like, I'm thinking about ideas for some Cultists for my Emperor's Children warband, and I have to admit, these guys don't factor into it. I don't think they need to. I think it would be perfectly possible and easy to make some that are far more distinctive and appropriate than these guys. But they're not bad models. There's just other options available now that look, I would say, a bit better. Now, your Warp Talons and your Raptors. The Raptors I really like. I think this kit is pretty decent. I have some experience with this kit, and I do like it, but the Warp Talons for me have always been a bit strange. I've always preferred the Raptors. I couldn't even really tell you why. The Warp Talons they've got this kind of like warp veins going off the side of the jump pack, and they look okay, but for some reason they have always, I don't know whether it's the helmets maybe? Well, I think some of the helmets are shared, if I remember. No, they're not. What is it? There's just something about them that feels a little odd, a little bit off. I think it's because you've got the Helldrake that has a similar sort of pattern to it as the Raptors and the Warp Talons, and the kind of like the thing sticking out the side of the jump packs for the Warp Talons are very reminiscent of that Helldrake, but they're obviously shrunken down, and I don't know that it translates all that well. I don't know that it works all that well shrunk down. It makes them look weirdly busy, and it kind of spoils the silhouette of the jump pack as well. They look like just random bits added on, which isn't all that... It's just not that good a look for me. Yeah, of the two, I just feel like the Raptors they just look better. They look a bit more cohesive, a bit less random. There isn't as much like tat because they've got like their normal boots, admittedly with claws coming out of the bottom of them, but still, I don't know. The Warp Talons just look a bit more dated somehow, which is bizarre because it's the same kit. So it doesn't really make a huge amount of sense, but yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one because they're literally on the same sprues, but the Warp Talons just have never looked as good to me as the Raptors. Also, when I was messing about I don't think Warp Talons are even worth taking anyway. Like, even slightly. Not that that's ever made any difference to me, but I mean, I get stuff because it looks good, not because it is good. But yeah. Now, the bikes, you poor dated lads. much like the loyalist equivalents, these lads have been around for approximately 100 damn years at this stage. Oh boy, I remember buying a box of Space Marine bikes and Chaos Space Marine bikes to make bikers for my 13th company during the first 13th Black Crusade, not the one that came afterwards. And yeah, both of those kits, ancient as anything, because they are still the same kits, like 15 years later or whatever. A little longer than that now. And yeah, they look fine. They look okay. They're just old. They're just super old. They're really old. I think in some ways it does show. I mean, they don't look bad. And they look a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more believable than the Space Marine bikes in some respects, not in all of them. I'm looking at you, lack of front kind of covering for the wheel that goes all the way over the front of it. But yeah, they're just getting on a bit now. And even on this one, I don't know whether you can see that at the back. Like, you can fully see the join line between the two halves. Absolute nightmare. It's the same for every single set you buy. You know, I bought multiples of both the standard Space Marine bikes and the Chaos bikes, and they all have that same issue where there is a super obvious join right down the center because the parts just don't match exactly. The main issue is that over the back wheel especially, you've got this, like, one side will be thicker than the other. The plastic will flat out be thicker on one side than it is on the other. So you've got this weird thing where they meet and then there's just a weird step because one side is I don't know whether it's just the position that they come out of the mould in. Like, I've got no idea, but it bugs me every time, and it's the same every time as well. It's never any different. Yeah, they look okay, but they're just getting on a bit. Again, our sprue theory, I say our sprue theory, it's mostly my sprue theory, but I'm sure there is something to it. What a ludicrous waste of space on that. It's unreal. In fact, these guys are still 2250. I don't know. They're just so old. Now, the possessed. Dear me. I think it is my personal theory that Chaos Space Marine Possessed looked okay until we got the Galvor back from Forge World, at which point they were exposed for the cartoony creations that they truly are. Now, there are parts of these models that actually look okay. I'm talking specifically the arms, for the most part, look all right. There's a nice kind of growth and deformity aspect to them, as though they're being changed by the warp, the metal's becoming something else. A few of the chests are pretty decent as well. Of course, these guys are still in the style of the old Chaos Space Marines, which makes them look even more dated anyway. The backpacks are not great on a few of them. The wings don't look too bad, but the weird tyrannid growths on old bug faces thing in the middle there just doesn't look great. I feel like they looked okay, and now they've just been shown up. You know, now there's something else to expose them to. Although this one is, I would argue, pretty decent. But yeah, they just don't do it for me. It's just literally better. You can just flat out buy better Possessed now from Forge World. Admittedly, yeah, they are more expensive. They are definitely more expensive. How much are these again? 25? Oh, 22.50. Okay. I mean, you know, the Forge World Galvorback will set you back way more than that. But then again, that guy's head just looks dumb. It just doesn't. It doesn't even look possessed. It looks like a cartoon. And the way the growths come out of the backpack is way too symmetrical and decorative. They've just not aged all that great. Okay. What was I just saying about not aging all that great? I need to take a drink for this. Hang on. Alright, okay. We've had a sip of beer. Let's go. My God. Oh, so Mutilators and Obliterators used to look pretty much the same. Obliterators, as you know, I don't know why I'm saying this though, you don't know, you do know, they used to look very similar to this, all stretched skin and weapons pointing out at weird angles. They're also a god-awful kit to assemble. Mine were metal. I'm assuming the resin ones weren't any easier, although I expect those held together slightly better than the metal ones did. These just look bad. I can't even give you like a redeeming feature for these guys. They just look shocking. I don't know whether it's the paint, I don't know whether it's... I mean, these have got the random element, the random kind of approach that it would be nice for the Possessed to have, but it's implemented in such a like garbo way. I just don't... They just look so squat and small, and they do look ugly, but not in a they've been touched by the warp way. They just look like their faces have been stretched over someone else's face, and it just doesn't have the impact. These guys should look terrifying. It's a virus that has overtaken them, fused them with their armor. They're causing like weapon growths to just appear out of nowhere. They should be like the epitome of absolute close combat terror, and instead you've just got three dudes who look like they're trying to take a shit, who are wearing their own brother's face over their own face with spikes sticking out of them. That's not scary. They're just not scary. They just don't look good. And these guys are hellish expensive for what they are as well. Because these are all, I'm 99% sure these guys are all resin. Yeah, resin cast 24 components. Ugh. Ugh. And 5 bases with which to make 3 mutilators. What? Why 5 bases for 3? Oh, 31.50. 31.50 for that. Ugh. Ah, quick move on. God damn. Right, now we're talking. New Havocs. New Havocs. Like the new Havocs a lot. Do like the new Havocs. Of course, there aren't enough of the old rotary cannons in the box. We've covered that before, but that complaint aside, I really like these guys. Really like them. I mean, where do you even start? You've got a las cannon that's actually held over the shoulder. It's a shoulder-mounted las cannon. That's quality. That's classic. That's what I like. That nod to the older style is really cool on these guys. It's really cool. I mean, the repeat pose on the las and missile launchers are like I don't know. I'm not sure about that. The fact that it's the same pose but 2 different bodies is a little bit grating. But I can kind of overlook it just because of how cool the las cannon is. Because I'm fickle and I'm fickle and shallow like that. Now I kind of feel like I might have wanted the heavy bolter to be the same, but then again, I'm a big fan of just that pose in general, the kind of underslung, hand on top kind of look for a weapon. So I can take it how it is. I think it still looks pretty damn solid. I still really like it, but overall, it is a cool squad. It is a cool looking unit. The kind of extra grip things that are on the feet that actually have a rule. The helmets with the oversized kind of targeting reticle over the eye looks awesome. In fact, the guy who's got the heavy bolter, that helmet with the exposed cabling, it just looks so good. It just looks so good. Just a really, really solid unit. Same thing for the just the normal Chaos Space Marines, just their normal squad. I think it's a really good rework. It's a really good redesign. It is that nice step between the old Chaos Space Marines and the Dark Vengeance ones. They've taken all the bits that made the Dark Vengeance ones so good and applied them to the general, the general look of the older ones. The fact they've been upscaled slightly as well helps a lot. Obviously, less customizable now, which is part of the price you pay, I guess, for having more decoration and stuff on them. Although, I say it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It could be a lot worse. You know, you still got a bit of leeway here and there. It's just not as customizable as it used to be, as you can see. But yeah, you can, with a little bit of hacking and slashing. I've only put one of these squads together so far, but with a little bit of messing about and a little bit of dipping into the bits box, it's possible to vary things slightly if you really want to. I mean, you don't have to. I think it would only be if you have multiple squads, which of course you most likely will want. Personally, I've only got the one at the moment, but that will no doubt change. But yeah, they're decent. They're all decent. They're good-looking Chaos Space Marines. And they finally look like their own thing. They don't just look like Space Marines with spikes. They have more of a personality of their own, which is exactly what I wanted. The Terminator redesign I actually really liked as well. Now, on the face of it, there's not a huge amount of difference between these and the old ones, but I think it's just lots of little quality of life changes. There's just a little bit of extra detail here and there. It's like everything's just been tightened up and reworked to be that bit more detailed, and yeah, I think they look really good. They have a slightly better posing going on pretty much throughout. As we talked about before, like the trophy rack having the spikes that weren't the traditional iron railings but were just like jagged pieces of metal. That being on these guys, I really, really like that because it makes it look a bit more improvised and a bit less ritual in a way. I think it works really well. I think it works really well. It's yeah, I'm super happy with these guys. This isn't a kit that I've put together personally, because my Emperor's Children's Terminators were made out of Custodes, Terminators instead, for added heresy. Although, at the time of assembling these guys weren't out, so I don't know, these are probably going to be worth a look. If I ever do an Iron Warriors army, I would absolutely have a whole bunch of these guys. Yeah, they just look decent. They just look really decent. Now, we've included the Start Collecting because, as it stands, unless the website is lying to me, and I don't believe it is, could not find the Venom Crawler, the Obliterators, or the Greater Possessed, or the Master of Possession by themselves. That surprises me. I'll admit I haven't looked at Chaos Space Marines for quite some time because I've been good and I've just been trying to paint and finish the stuff I already have for my Emperor's Children without getting anything extra. And I honestly thought that these guys would be available separately by now, but it doesn't look like they are. Still think this is a really cool model. Still think it's well over the top. Ridiculous. Very 80s metal album cover, but that's why I love it so much. This is still creepy and awful, and again, that's why I like it. It's all the flesh out the back. It's so gross. It's just so gross. Does make me wish we had an updated Defiler that was more in the style of this and the Lord Discordant's mount, though. Really does make me wish we had that, because I really like the style of this, and I feel like that would work well as a large version for a Defiler would work. What's the word? Not sad. Annoyed? Oh, I can't think of it. But whatever it is, I am that they basically just did what I was trying to do for my Obliterators. Again, I started my Obliterators before these guys were shown off or even close to being announced. So I used Skaven Storm guys, the big ones, and I made Obliterators out of those. And then these were shown off, which were basically what I was aiming for, but slightly better. So, no kit bash goes unnoticed, apparently. I do like them. I do like them a lot, apart from this guy's horrendous feat. I hate that. I hate it. I really hate it. But the one thing that is a bit weird is that they are very clearly Centurion-based. which is an odd direction to take them, since Obliterators originally, if I recall my my third ed codex lore, they were Terminators who got the Obliterator virus, which turned them into Obliterators. So these guys quite clearly having Centurion legs and feet and shoulder pads that have been embossed with chaos is a bit weird. Is a bit odd, but oh well, they look good, so whatever. Still weird. I mean, you can kind of see that from the Mutilators, the kind of Terminator base of them, a little bit more anyway. That's the best of the two Greater Possessed. That's a nice mix between 40k style and 30k style. I really like that. It's a good model. This one I'm not as keen on, but it's still decent. I just think it's not quite as good as the other one. It has grown on me a bit more. I really wasn't a fan the first time, I seem to remember. But yeah, it has grown on me quite a bit. That massive hand that's also a mouth is awful. In a good way. Right, the Helldrake. The flying chicken. I love it. This has long been one of my favourite models. It's otherworldly, it's weird. Is it living? Is it a construct? Is it like just what even is going on with this hell creature? I think it's got a really cool, unique silhouette. It's that really fun mix of a good amount of detail, but also a decent amount of flat space, so you can get fun effects like the lightning that the Night Lords love so much. It is a good model. It is definitely a good model. I like it. I know people like the fly, like the hell chicken, but I don't know. I think it's really cool. Plus the wings and the head and stuff are so good for like conversions, and you can probably make it your own through messing about with it. I still want to make one that's got the engines off a Storm Talon as well as the wings, because that would be fun. Yeah, it's cool. It's good. It's really good. Oh, the classic Defiler. Oh, my boy, my little baby boy. Oh. Don't get me wrong, I love the Defiler. You all know I love the Defiler. I'm not going to talk about getting them again, because you've heard it enough at this point. You know I like it. That is what is that, 360? 360 degrees means 360. That's not 360, is it? That's like 4. Let's what is going on there? It's totally knackered. I think they've only got like 6 pictures of this, so you don't get a 360 degree view. You get a 6 degree view for that one. I think it's. I have a huge amount of love and nostalgia for this thing, but it's aged a bit poorly. It's aged a bit poorly for me. It just looks clunky and dated, and the detail isn't quite there for a vehicle of that size. And like now we've got things like the Venom Crawler and stuff, and the stuff that the Death Guard's got. I like the bloat drone and things. It just doesn't. It's just not holding up all that well. I would love to see a new version of this. I would absolutely love to see a new version of it. I don't dislike it. I still do really like it, and I constantly have to fight the temptation to get one, almost entirely for nostalgia's sake. But it could just do with an upgrade, you know. Such a classic though, such a classic vehicle, model, demon engine, whatever. That's the other thing as well. It doesn't fit as well as it used to. Back when all you had was Predators, Land Raiders, Rhinos, and the Chaos Dreadnought that was metal and chunky. Like the Defiler looked like a demon engine because it was walking on 6. You know, it had 6 legs and this weird like head, and the cannon was part of its body, and it looked different. It looked unique. It looked like a demon engine compared to just a Land Raider. When Chaos Space Marines were just using Naut but Imperial vehicles. I mean, even in the case of the Iron Warriors, yes, they could take a Vindicator or a Basilisk, but that was still just, essentially, you could take another box with a gun on it or a slightly different box with a gun on it. And so this looked totally different. It was like a standout thing. It looked so not like anything that your normal Space Marines had. Since then, though, we've had the Helldrake, we've had the Mauler Fiend and the Forge Fiend, we've had the, where's he gone? There we go, the Hell Brew, and those all execute the idea of a demon engine better than that. That says demon engine. That says demon engine. That now says tank with legs, and it's lost the shine, I think is what it is. But the Mauler Fiend and the Forge Fiend are both quality models. That's why I think the Defiler needs an upgrade, because like these and the Venom Crawler and the Hell Brew and the Helldrake, they look different. They look like they're part of a different force. It does look so good though. And again, absolute amazing fodder for converting Chaos Knights, these two. Really good for converting Chaos Knights. So creepy. So creepy. The fact they've got a gun for a face, the Forge Fiend. Love it. Love the gun for a face. Now, we can't go through all of this. We should do the Hell Brew first, actually. Let's look at the Hell Brew, because the Hell Brew is, I think, still a really good model. Again, nice and versatile, lots of different options for the kit. You can personalize it a fair bit. You've got even different surrounds for the head, which is a nice touch. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of customization available for this thing, and it's, I know it's not. It is a dreadnought, obviously, but it's so much more than that by having all of the fleshy bits. It looks properly corrupted, properly chaos. Yeah, I do like the Hell Brew a lot. I think they did a really good job with it. It's creepy in all the right places, but it still looks heavily armoured, and you still know what it used to be, Or at least you still know what it's replaced, at the very least. Full well looking at it, it's like, oh, that's what they have instead of dreadnoughts now, is it? It's also pretty well packed. But yeah, I do like it. Now, onto the tanks. The Predator is a classic, obviously a classic Space Marine vehicle. It still looks good. It's got spikes on it, yes. I would be sad if they ever stopped selling this. Same as the Vindicator. I would be sad if the Vindicator ever disappeared. Pretty much all of these, to be honest. What can you say about them other than they still look good? They still look decent. The Land Raider is a classic vehicle. If it ever goes away, I'll be more than sad. I'll be gutted. Now, to finish off, we've got the Berserkers. We know they need an update. We've done a whole video about it. They desperately need an update. Please. But we also have the Lord of Skulls. And the Lord of Skulls is badass and awesome and ridiculous and silly. It's such a ludicrous vehicle. Like, an actual skull cannon is mad. It's a really, really good model. I sometimes think that perhaps they made it and then they didn't really know what to do with it after that, in a way. But it does look really cool. I think it's the Khitan Demon Engine from Forge World does use, I think, the upper half of this, but you end up with a set of legs instead of treads. I have to admit, I really like the treads. It's grown on me. I didn't used to like it all that much, but I think once you accept just how utterly mental it is, it starts to grow on you. Have we got a proper full look through the whole thing? We don't. But luckily they've taken pictures from almost every important angle. That head is terrifying. To be honest, I think probably I would use the kind of cornate wings almost from that head on that head. That would be a cool combination. Yeah, it looks so good. It looks so good. It's so insane and ridiculous. I would love to know. I don't know. I don't actually know who designed this. I would love to meet. I'd love to know who designed this thing, and like what the brief was, or whether they just suddenly went, "I've had an idea," like sketched a few things out and went, "What do you think?" And someone else said, "You do realise that's actually mental, right?" Yes. Oh, well, make it then. Let's go. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. Let's leave him up there. Let's leave him up there in all his absurd glory. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of all of those in the comments down below. As I say, I am working on other things. As soon as I've worked out my incredibly annoying tech issues, I will hopefully be able to have some new stuff up for you soon. Yeah, let me know what you thought of that in the comments down below. As always, feel free to click the things, Patreon, video subscribe, all that stuff. And there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games that you can use to support the channel if you would like. It's entirely up to you. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.